In this problem, we're told that the research group referenced an example 10.3.4. So if you want to go back and look at that example real quick and press pause, I would suggest doing so if you haven't just looked at it and aren't familiar with it. But we're told that the same research group talked to teens in smaller focus groups, but also interviewed additional teens over the phone. When the study was complete, 588 teens had answered the question about their social media site friends, with 159 saying that they have more than 500 friends. We're told to use the +4 method to find a 90% confidence interval for the true proportion of teens who would report having more than 500 online friends based on this larger sample. And then we're asked to compare this result to example 10.3.4, the example just prior to this triad exercise. So first off, let's write down what we know our given information is. So in this instance, we know that 588 teens were surveyed, so N equals 588. Uh, 159 of those said that they have more than 500 friends. So P, our proportion of successes, is going to be 159 out of 588. Q is going to be the difference of that, 429 out of 588. 429 plus 159 is 588. And 90% confidence. Which we should know that leads to a Z critical value of 1.645. Now we're told to use the +4 method. So what that means is, with the +4 method, we're going to have N equals 592. P equals 159 plus 2 is going to be 161 out of 592. Q is going to equal 429 plus 2, which is 431 out of 592. And our confidence level is still going to be the same. So our bound on error, or margin of error, or error bound of the proportion, is going to equal the Z critical value times the square root of P times Q divided by N, which equals 1.645 times the square root of P, which is 159. Oh, sorry. I was using the original one instead of the +4. It's 161 out of 592. Our Q is going to be 431 out of 592. And then N, our sample size, is 592. And that ends up being approximately 0.0301. So then the confidence interval equals the 161 divided by 592, which is actually just 0.2720 minus 0.0301 and 0.2720 plus 0.0301, which ends up being 0.2419 to 0.3020. And in context, what that means is that we are 90% confident that the true proportion of teens who would report having more than 500 online friends based on this larger sample is between 24.19% and 30.2%. And if we compare that to our result from example 10.3.4, which only had a sample size of 50. So we went from a sample size of 50 to, with our +4 method, a sample size of 592. It extremely narrowed that confidence interval. Again, we went from, with example 10.3.4, we went from a lower bound of approximately 0.178 to 0.2419, and we went from an upper bound of 37.8%, 0.378, to a much lower 0.302. So in typical fashion, we increased the sample size and leaving the other aspects the same as far as the confidence interval or the confidence level is concerned. It's going to narrow, make that confidence interval more narrow than what it was prior to.